Alrighty, so here we go. It's time to do another hot seat index where we're looking at almost every single head coach in MLS and kind of rank them in a hot seat index. And I kind of want to do it right now, just a week before we officially hit the World Cup break, where MLS is not going to have any games, and it's pretty much like a mini off season that is, because we just recently saw two head coaches being fired, both Columbus and Austin fire their respective head coach. We also saw two other ones fired early this season, and one, of course, decided to left on a mutual consent. Even though we all know that in the case of Inter Miami, we'll never know. I mean, I know Javier Mascherano have said that he resigned from the team, but I think you can kind of say that there is definitely some mumbling in the background that he was maybe being pressured to be resigned, and that if he wasn't going to resign, he probably would have been end up in the same situation as these other four head coaches that is already on the chopping block in terms of teams that have fired their respective head coach. So with that being said, as always, and number one, this is the hot seat category. These are kind of the coaches that I think could be the next to be end up on the chopping block. The second one is it could definitely go either way. Should be safe at the end of the year is the third tier. The fourth tier, of course, is that they're safe. And then the fifth tier, I already mentioned teams with interim head coach. I'm not going to include them because it's kind of unfair to include interim head coaches in the hot seat index, consider they're only there for an interim basis. So in the case of Austin, Montreal, Orlando City, Miami, and Columbus, I'm not going to be talking about them in this video and part of the hot seat index. But for the other 25 teams that currently have a head coach, it is still fair game. And we'll start off with Atlanta United with Tata Martino. I'm going to go with the initial each of those head coaches as I did with my hot seat index before. I'm going to put Tata Martino at could go either way. And honestly, as what Tata Martino said a couple of months ago, where he had this famous quote, the fact that if he didn't build a great relationship with Atlanta United and win that only MLS Cup trophy and part of the good time that Atlanta once have, he probably would have been fired a long time ago. And he's not wrong. I mean, this Atlanta team has been absolutely woeful, and the only reason why I think Tata Martino is still there is because he's built a lot of goodwill with the Atlanta United fan base and also the front office as well. And this also wouldn't be a good look on the Atlanta front office. They decided to fire Tata Martino straight away. Consider they have got this wrong a lot when it comes to the head coaching change, and especially with the way that this is also a team that is nowhere near in terms of competing. They are in a painful full decline to a point where it is pretty clear that this team is going to have to rebuild, and maybe we'll have to shred a lot of talent in order to do so. So I don't think Tata Martino is going to be fired, though I could be wrong. This is Atlanta United after all. This is a team that is pretty ruthless when it comes to firing head coaches. So we'll see whether or not if that might be the case, and that's why I kind of put him to go either way. Then we look at Charlotte with Dean Smith. Yeah, I think Dean Smith should be safe. I'm gonna put him right around here. I mean, yes, things have definitely not gone right for the team in many ways, but one thing I will say about Dean Smith is that he is still the most successful head coach that Charlotte has had compared to the two other head coaches that they had before that was not successful whatsoever. And while they are kind of stuck in mediocrity right now and finally stopped the bleeding with a huge win against Toronto in the midst of a once again a May free fall, just like what we saw last season, I think he should be safe for at least until the end of the season. Then we look at Chicago with Greg Berhalter. Yeah, he's safe. I mean, what Greg Berhalter has done, and actually I forgot to put the initial, so let me just do that with Dean Smith here, and then Greg Berhalter. Yeah, Greg Berhalter is safe. I mean, there's not much I have to talk about with Greg Berhalter, and some of them I'm just gonna kind of skim through, so I don't make this a super long video because it's pretty obvious that Greg Berhalter is gonna be safe because he's done an amazing job for Chicago. This is by far the best we have seen Chicago have played in a very long time. If you thought last year Greg Berhalter has kind of upped the ceiling of this Fire team, he's definitely put it even higher this year to a point where we're starting to go look back at when the Chicago Fire was once a dominant force in the Eastern Conference. I mean, it's hard to believe it's been that long since that is the case, but he's definitely bringing some good time back to this Fire team. Then we look at Cincinnati with Pat Nolan, and this might surprise some Cincinnati fans, but I'm actually gonna put Pat Nolan pretty low. Yes, I know it hasn't been a great season so far, and that Obviously, there's a lot of problem defensively with this team. The attack has kind of really bailed them out, especially the high end talent has really bailed out Pat Nolan there. But I think for the most part, because of all the goodwill that Pat Nolan has built and all the success that he's done with this team, I don't think he's going to be fired as long as it doesn't end up to be like what we saw with Jim Curtin, where when Jim Curtin got fired, it was mainly because the Union team was clearly in a bottom stage where they're kind of going through a transitional period, and they don't think Jim Curtin is the man to do so. This Cincinnati team is not that. This Cincinnati team is still competing, even though their windows is starting to close a little bit sooner than I think some Cincinnati fans will admit. So, but yeah, I think Pat Nolan should be at least until the end of the year. If not, should be safe for this season. Then we look at Colorado with Matt Wells. Yeah, Matt Wells should be safe at least until the end of the season. I mean, with Matt Wells, it's kind of interesting. As I always said about this Rapids team, their record doesn't really implicate how good they are actually are. And I know there's that old saying, your record is what all always says about your team. But this Rapids team have played pretty well at times as well. Obviously, the road form is a big problem with this team. They've only got 2 wins so far on the road. One was against Sporting KC, and the other was actually probably a very impressive one against Minnesota, albeit that was kind of a game that is due to the fact that Minnesota was just looking absolutely woeful in terms of finishing, and that they actually really got outplayed in that game as well. But that's sometimes you need that, especially when you're a bad road team. You're not gonna get outplay the opposite position. In fact, more times than not, you're gonna get completely outplayed, but you get bailed out because your opposition just could not finish. But so far, he's definitely done well for this Rapids team, and I think he's definitely going to be here at least until the end of the year. Now we look at FC Dallas with Peter Quill. Yeah, Peter Quill is safe. I mean, this Dallas team is a very fun team to watch, especially with the character that this Dallas team has had. And I'm pretty sure Dallas fans they probably saw what happened with Nico Estevez with Austin, and they're probably laughing at Austin and certainly him that yep, we told you that it didn't quite work. Yeah, we told you that this is not a great hire because of the way that Nico Estevez played that negative brand of soccer. Peter Quo is the complete opposite. Peter Quo is definitely delivering what we thought this Dallas team would be. We knew that they decided to get him mainly because they want to play much more entertaining brand of soccer and some high octane kind of soccer instead of just some boring brand of soccer that we saw under Nico Estevez, and we're seeing it. They're right now. I mean, his team is always involved in some high scoring affair, and while yes, that might turn some Dallas fan off the fact that our defense hasn't been great, but still, if you can bring some entertaining brand of soccer, which is something that Dallas fan definitely did not enjoy their time with Nico Estevez, or even going back to Luchi Gonzalez as well, I think they'll take it, even if there are definitely that concern of the fact that they are leaking a lot of goals, mainly because that's just kind of the brand of style that Peter Quill teams like to run. Then we look at DC with Ronnie Williams. You know what? This might surprise some people, but I think he's kind of gone down in the list. He would have been pretty high up in the hot seat index because DC has always been a team that likes to change their head coach every single season. There's a high turnover rate with DC every single year, but this season DC actually have look respectable as well, and it's kind of interesting because near around April, I thought this is when the free fall began with this DC side when they weren't playing very well. But lately, they actually look respectable, and I will give credit to Rene Willer and what he has done to this team, and especially for a team that doesn't really have a lot of talent within their roster, and the fact that they still are performing. Being definitely much better than I anticipated. Yeah, he's gonna get a lot of credit, and I think as long as he continues to do that, he should be at least be safe at the end of the year. Then we look at Houston with Ben Olsen. I'm gonna still say Ben Olsen could go either way. Mainly because, with Ben Olsen this season with his Houston team, it's been very inconsistent. There's been some good times that Ben Olsen team has had, but then there are also some very bad resort that they have. They've been very inconsistent this season, and apparently because of the fact that they're inconsistent, it's still good enough for them to make it to the playoffs. Because after all, when you have 9 teams that make it out of the playoffs out of 15 team, you can be inconsistent and you still can make it. Because as much as I always talk about the West being the stronger conference, it's kind of it started to kind of not look like that a little bit, mainly because of the way that some of these top tier team in the West has started to stumble in these last a couple of games, and Houston has kind of took advantage of it because of how inconsistent they've been. They're at least good enough to get points, while some of the team at the top haven't been inconsistent and it has just been bad these last couple of weeks. So yeah, I think so far things are going well with Ben Olsen and his Houston Dynamo side. But if things start to fall apart for this team, I'm pretty sure Dynamo fans are going to call for Ben Olsen heads again, especially with the way that this is his third season with the team, and if DC fans have talked tell Houston fans all this year the fact that you do not want Ben Olsen to take over your team for relatively long until you realize, yeah, the team can get stale and things could start to fall apart for that specific team. Then we look at the LA Galaxy with Greg Vanny. I think it could go either way too. I know Galaxy fans want to put Greg Vanny in the hot seat because of the way that there's been some really bad performance out there. In some way, it's kind of similar to what I said with Houston, where the Galaxy lately it's been very inconsistent. Like they have at times have showed up in games, and at times they haven't. The time that they show up the game, they pull off that impressive 2-0 win against Seattle, and then that was just 3 days after they suffered probably the worst loss that they had this season by losing to Sporting KC, and not just lose to Sporting KC, but to get swept by Sporting KC. I mean, that's an utter embarrassment. So yeah, it just that's kind of the reason why Galaxy fans are upset. The fact that you just don't know what version of a Galaxy team is going to show up, and with all the talent that this team has had, they should be better than what the inconsistent form that they're currently in, and a lot points to Greg Vanny of the way that his tactics has not really set up well enough to get this team to perform consistently in a consistent basis. So yeah, I do still think they could go either way. I wouldn't be surprised if things go south again, or if the Galaxy suffer more embarrassing loss that I'm pretty sure the Galaxy fans are going to be calling for Greg Vanny's heads again. Then we look at LAFC with Marc Dos Santos. Yeah, I think he's in the hot seat. Things have not gone well for Marc Dos Santos squad. And I know some might say this is maybe fixture congestion that might be the issue, and some might say that is the case. I mean, with them playing so many games in such a short amount of period, it's gonna eventually catch up to the team. But the thing that I will also say with that is that yes, that obviously could be a legitimate excuse, but his team haven't really looked good even when they had the chances to get some rest, and the fact that I even said before, with him getting into this situation where his team is just completely tired out. In many ways, you gotta say he has no one to blame but himself. I've said it before, the fact that he hasn't done a great job when it comes to managing his team. He hasn't given being a lot of his starters some rest when they desperately need it. He's been pretty much running the team to the ground. So as a result, I mean, this is kind of on you in terms of not managing the team well. Obviously, yes, you're going to have to rotate, and battling both CONCACAF Champions Cup and MLS play is going to be very tough, especially this year with the condensed schedule before the long World Cup break. But yeah, Marco Santos having did himself his favor, not managing the team relatively well, and also the tactics that he used. Yeah, it's very stale, and not to mention he's kind of gone away with the whole counter attacking style of play, which it befuddled me with the way that why are they going away with that, and why they really trying to be more of a possession team when time and time again we see that this team just doesn't look well when they are a possession team. They rely heavily on the counter attack, and while that might make LAFC maybe one dimensional, hey, Steve Cherundolo will keep doing that the whole last season, and they had a lot of success as well, even when teams kind of realized that LAFC was going to be that transitional kind of team, and there's just nothing they can stop it because Danibo Wanga is probably one of the most deadliest player when it comes to going through the transitional moment as well. Then we look at Minnesota with Cam Knowles. He's going to be safe. I mean, yes, things have not gone well for Minnesota lately. I mean, it was a pretty bad week last week with getting 1 point in their 3 games and coming off that loss against New England. But I do think that Knowles is not going to get the heat. I mean, he's not even close to getting the heat that he needs to deserve. I mean, yes, he's also kind of working with a team where this is the best that he can work with. There's no doubt that there's some talent deficit you could say with this team, and also So the fact that the talent deficit is mostly on the finishing department. I mean, Cam Knowles can only do so much. He can't make this team to keep missing shots time and time again. In fact, this brand of soccer that Cam Knowles play, I actually enjoy the fact that they are more adventurous going for it. They're not just gonna park the bus every single game and heavily rely on set pieces and long throw. And they actually do at times look like your typical MLS team want to build within possession and try to finish. It's just the fact that this team is not finishing. They are way underperforming their XG this year. Not a big surprise that is the case. And like I said, Cam Knowles, there's nothing really he can do. I mean, he's done a great job when it comes to building an exciting team going forward. But he's not gonna be a guy that can force the players to tell that they have to be better in terms of finishing, unless of course they need to do more of that on the training ground. Where I swear I feel like Cam Knowles, the number one thing he's got to focus doing his training ground routine is finishing, because my oh my, it is kind of shocking to see how there's nobody on this team that can finish more times or not. Then we look at Nashville with BJ Callahan. I don't even need to say this with BJ Callahan. I mean, he's obviously safe. It's been an incredible season for Nashville. There's not much you need to say about BJ Callahan being anywhere in trouble of being in the hot seat. In fact, he's kind of the opposite of that. He's gunning for the Coach of the Year award in many ways if he can keep up what Nashville is doing right now. And then we look at New England with Marco Gomitrovic. Yeah, same thing. I think he is safe. I mean, he what a turnaround it's been. This is why you cannot judge a book by its cover. The fact that the first couple of games it was a disaster under Marco Mitrovic. Ever since that, it's gone a lot better. And yes, I know they are taking advantage of some easy opponent, and not to mention taking advantage of playing a lot of home games to begin the season. But hey, that's something you need to do. I mean, as the old saying goes, you can only play against who is in front of you. And sometimes we've seen before where good teams, when they play against bad opponent, they take their foot off the gas, they play down to the competition, and they end up losing those games. New England is not doing it this year. Marko Mitrovic has done a great job in terms of making sure that his team always pick up free points when they need it. Now, when it comes to competitiveness, are they ready to be a contender in the East? No, not even close. I don't think they're a contender. I think they're more fraudulent in that department. But hey, I think New England fans would take and consider how things have gone in the last two seasons in the post Bruce Arena era, where things have just kind of gone disastrous under Caleb Porter. It must be very refreshing for Rams fans to see that their team is winning again, albeit maybe not a lot of people will give them respect for it because of the way that they've been taking advantage of playing pretty much all the easy team in the beginning of the season. Then we look at NYCFC with Pascal Janssen. Yeah, he's in the hot seat. Pascal Janssen is definitely in the hot seat, and even with the draw that they recently have, in the way that NYCFC has started to kind of turn their season a little bit around after just a disastrous April, and also in the early part of May where they went on that very long winless run. The bottom line is that with the way that this front office and City Football Group, they're not a ownership group that is patient when it comes to coaches eventually going to turn things around. They won't be hesitant in terms of pulling the trigger and firing a head coach. And if NYCFC continue to look kind of mediocre, or they continue to have problem when it comes to their finishing, as we've seen multiple times this year, yeah, wouldn't be surprised if Pete with Pascal Janssen, he might be let go sooner than we might think it is. Now, with the other New York team, Michael Bradley, yeah, he should be safe at least the end of the year. Yes, the Red Bulls have been very inconsistent. This is another one of those teams that you just don't know what kind of Red Bulls team would show up. But I think everybody thought that was going to happen. I mean, that's what happened when you play all youngster. When you play a lot of youngster, while they're very excited, the inexperience can also kind of harm a team, and that youngster sometimes will have up and down kind of run of form, and we're kind of seeing it with a lot of these top tier youngsters like Julian Hall and Mehmeti and these guys that has been kind of hot and cold at times. When they're doing well, this team looks like a fun team to watch. When they're not doing well, yeah, that's when the losing begins. So, I mean, as much as I know Red Bulls fans are frustrated that is the case, you just got to trust the process. You got to trust the fact that Michael Bradley is going to continue to get these youngster mature. Obviously, I never thought that this team was going to be ready to get themselves self competing for MLS Cup again. I just think this is kind of a transitional period for the Red Bull supposed to go through, and especially with the youth movement once again being the forefront of it. And I think they've done a pretty good job, even if there is going to be some growing pains where you have seen times where the Red Bulls have been very inconsistent because of the way that that's just kind of how young players are. Now looking at Philadelphia Union with Bradley Carnell. Yep, Bradley Carnell is definitely in the hot seat. I mean, with the way how things have gone, I know that a lot of this might not be on Bradley Carnell. You could also really question the front office and that the front office did this to themselves in terms of continue to shred talent and yeah, when you continue to shred talent, eventually it's going to come back to bite you. It has bite the Union in a big way, and not to mention some of the new signings has been just completely dud. But Bradley Carnell hasn't really helped himself too with the way that even with the talent that he has, he just haven't got enough for this resort, and it's getting to a point where when you have a team like this, have how bad things have gone, continue to sit near the bottom of the standings. I mean, we saw it with St. Louis. They did it after the second season when things gone really bad that they had no choice but pull the trigger to let go of Bradley Carnell. Wouldn't be surprised it might be the same with the unit. Wouldn't even be surprised as soon as next week as well, because like I said, with the way that we have a long World Cup break, I wouldn't be surprised more teams may feel like, you know what, this might be the time where we fire a head coach, maybe look for a new head coach during this World Cup break, bring them in, and basically get the team going again, because this World Cup break is like a mini off season for every MLS team. They need to take advantage of it, and for those bad teams, they might need to take advantage of it so that they can maybe get that new head coach boost or get that new voice in so that they can maybe make a charge in the second half of the season to get themselves back to playoff contention. Then we look at the Portland Timbers with Phil Neville. Same thing. Phil Neville is right up here. He's definitely in the hot seat. And unfortunately, you can't play Sporting KC every single week and score stoppage time winner. That's obviously unsustainable. And we've seen with Phil Neville side, this team has been a definition of what you expect from a Phil Neville side. Very inconsistent. They could be good at times, and then they could be bad at times as well. And when they're bad, they are really bad in my opinion. And a lot of Timbers fans been asking for Phil Neville heads for a very long time. Wouldn't be surprised that it will be sooner or later that he might be ousted. Then we look at Pablo Mastroeni with RSL. Yeah, he's safe. Don't need to explain too much about Pablo Mastroeni. He's done an amazing job with RSL. And I talk about young players that sometimes they have up and down period. You know, Pablo Mastroeni RSL team is an exception. It's crazy to see how all these youngsters has done relatively well. Though some of them has kind of had some experience. I mean, Gozo has really level up to be a guy that definitely has a big money transfer written all over it. Diego Luna definitely had something to prove that season while on making the World Cup, and then even other guys like Gilavogi, and even a surprise package in Sergei Solans, a super draft pick that they had. We didn't know too much about him and what he can do. Well, we definitely know now what he can do. I mean, he can definitely bring the goal scoring that this RSL team has not had since Chicho Arango left this team. Then we look at San Diego with Mikey Veras. I'm gonna say I think he should be safe, but then again, with the way how things have gone for San Diego, yes, San Diego is suffering a second year syndrome. We knew this was gonna happen. We knew they were gonna hit regression period. Now, I did not expect them to go for a 10-game winless run during this regression period, but we knew that this team was not going to be as good as last season. Last season, I think it was amazing of how they performed, and maybe part of that is maybe teams don't have a book on them. I think now the teams have a book on him, and this is where Mikey Veras have kind of showed some of the flaws that he has now, where he doesn't really have the adjustment to need it. Now the team has a book on this, and it also doesn't help the fact that his defense has just completely regressed this year. I mean, the defense has been pretty atrocious throughout this season, but yet at least I will say with San Diego, they're not as crazily fall off as what we saw with St. Louis that decided to let go of Bradley Carnell. I think this front office will give Mike Kiveras benefit, and especially with how good that first season is, there's still going to be that honeymoon period of how good that first season is. Now, if this does continue, maybe throughout the end of the season, or maybe even heading next season as well, then yeah, I think Mike Kiveras will definitely be feeling the heat. But right now, I think he should be safe, but wouldn't be surprised it could also go up to the could go either way category, as I'm kind of putting near the lower tier of the could go either way category. Then we look at San Jose Earthquakes and Bruce Arena. Yeah, Bruce Arena is safe. I already mentioned before how many times that Bruce Arena, whatever his second year sorcery that he always do, where for whatever reason in his second year he always turned teams into to a supporter shield contending kind of team. I want to know it too. Now, yes, this team has kind of struggled in the last couple of games, and we knew that was going to happen. We knew this team was playing out of their minds in the first couple of months, and a big part of the reason why they've started to slow down, they really miss Nico Jaqueras and Timo Werner. And with the way that there's not a lot of depth in this team, we knew this team was going to do for a regression. This is why I say that as long as they survive for one more game. I mean, the fascinating thing is because they picked up so many points this season, they technically, even if they lose to the Portland Timbers, they're not going to finish anywhere lower than second in the standings. And heck, even in the loss that they've suffered in the last two games, have they not give up late goals and have defensive lapse, they would have got points in both of those games as well. So they theoretically could still be sitting on just one losses so far this season as well. So it's not like they, even when they're not playing well in the last couple of games, that it's because of the fact that they've been horrifically bad. I mean, the defense, that's probably how you can describe in the last couple of games. It feels like the last couple of games the Quakes have went back to last season defensive mode. But when it comes to the grit that this team has shown and the mentality that this team has shown, many times we have seen this team have not quit in games, and that's something I just don't see very often with previous Quakes team. Previous Quakes team does not have the ability to show some grit and show some fight back like what we've seen with this team, and even during this bad stretch, they have shown some good mentality and some good fight back quality as well. Now, looking at Sporting KC with Raphael Wiki, this might surprise some Sporting KC fan, but I do think that Raphael Wiki is not going anywhere. As much as I know some people say that he should be fired. I mean, when you look at this Sporting KC team, I feel like even if you bring in Prime Bruce Arena into this team or any good head coach, nobody is going to get this team to be a competitive team. This team is just really bad on all cylinder, and that I mentioned before. This is the first year of the painful deep rebuild. This is kind of the first year of the cleanup mess that was left in the previous regime. So we knew that this team was going to be bad. And I know Raphael Wiki, when they hired him, I didn't think that was necessarily a good hire, especially for a guy to lead a rebuild. And so far, we're kind of seeing it right now. But for the most part, at least I will say that he will get at least the end of the season, and maybe they'll look at some other guys to do so, because I would be surprised if they decide to let go of Raphael Wiki. I mean, I don't think anything will change if they let go of Raphael Wiki. This team is just so bad right now that there's not really a lot of head coach in this league that can just jump straight in and make instant impact to this team, because there's just not a lot of talent right now with this team whatsoever. Now, we look at St. Louis with Yohan Daime. I think I'm gonna put Yohan Daime here. Same thing. I will say that St. Louis, they haven't had a great start to the season as well, and I know some St. Louis fan will be tempted to maybe let go of Yohan Daime and look for someone, and maybe they'll use that as a way to get somebody new and basically get the reinforcement they need to get themselves to competitiveness. No, I think, well, yes, you do question some of the choices that Johan Daime team selection has been. He has done a pretty respectable job, especially the last couple of games where St. Louis is starting to look a little bit better compared in the beginning of the season. And again, with the roster that they have, which is a very incomplete roster, just like what I said with Sporting KC, you don't expect any head coach is going to get this incomplete roster and instantly make this team to be a playoff contender. St. Louis is still a long way from that, so I would be shocked if they decide to let go of Yohan Deme, and he could be safe at least until the end of the year. Then we look at Robin Fraser. I'm going to put Robin Fraser pretty high, mainly because, again, for Toronto, this is supposed to be the year that they maybe are not only showing some huge progress in this deep rebuild, but now they're starting to get to the competitive level. Now, unfortunately, that hasn't really been kind of the case because they're big money signing George Sargent. He's been I think he's been out with injuries lately, and not to mention Georgi Mihailovic missing time. That is huge for this. That he is really a huge piece that can unlock that attack. But also, defensively, they also hasn't been great whatsoever. They've been playing some crazy games lately as well. So as a result, I know with the way that a lot of TFC fans they want Robin Fraser to be gone. I think the front office maybe will be a little bit patient and give it till the second half of the season to see if he can turn things around, especially when this team does get healthy, because this team has been decimated with injuries as well. But if it doesn't go so well, if they continue this losing run, then yeah, I wouldn't be surprised Robin Fraser might get the axe as a resort. And then last but not least, with Jasper Sorensen, yeah, I mean Jasper Sorensen, he's right here. You don't really need to say too much. He has turned that Vancouver Whitecaps to being an absolute wagon right now for the second consecutive year or so. He's as safe as you can get as well. But there you have it. That is pretty much it when it comes to looking at the emotion index. As always, let me know in the comments below. What do you think of this? And did I put some head coach maybe too high on the emotion index? Or not the emotion index, I'm sorry, the hot seat index. That is, I got the wrong index name. I meant the hot seat index. Did I put some head coach a little too high on the hot seat index? Did I put some head coach a little bit too low in the hot seat index? Let me know in the comments below as always. But until then, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you guys next time.